So, a warm welcome on behalf of our team. And here, just a moment, again, I don't see anything. Today, I'm giving you an introduction to the MSCA COFUND, a basic one. And my colleague Isabel Spüler will explain afterwards to you how institutions based in Switzerland can participate in the MSCA COFUND Action. And we will also have a testimonial. Isa, you can go to the next slide. And we will also have a testimonial of Atziri, who is a member of the management board managing the Merit project implementation. And she will explain to us a bit about her work. And then finally, we will also have an opportunity to answer your questions if you have any. So next slide, please. Just a few words on our organization, Euresearch, your Swiss guide to European research and innovation. We offer information and guidance on cooperation and funding opportunities at EU level. Our services are free of charge, and we have a mandate from the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation. Next slide, please, Isa. We are organized in a network structure with a central network office in Bern, where all the national contact points are gathered under one roof, basically, and then with regional offices in different regions in Switzerland. Next slide, please. For your information, this event will be recorded, as you saw already. And in the recording, as far as I know, there should only the presentations and the speakers be appearing. But if you don't want your face to be recorded, then you just switch off the camera. And the recording will be uploaded on our webpage in the next days, and you will receive the slides as well as the link to the recording via an email shortly after the event. If you have questions, please enter them in the Q&A box. I indicated here, you find it in the bar with the pink circle. And we will try to answer them either in the course of the next hour or at the very end of the presentation. If questions remain unanswered after the info event, then please send an email to msca@euresearch.ch. Okay, COFUND is one of 5 MSCA, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which all share a focus on mobility, training, and career development of researchers, as well as an international dimension. And they follow a so-called bottom-up approach. The topics of the projects aren't predefined by the European Commission, but researchers are free to come up with topics in all different areas of research. Next slide, please. The Marie Curie Action co-funding of regional, national, and international programs, or short COFUND, supports new or existing doctoral programs and postdoctoral fellowship schemes. Next slide, please. It provides funding for regional, national, and international programs, pre-existing or new ones, for training and career development of researchers. And it does that through co-funding mechanisms. The aim of the action is to spread the best practices of the MSCA, including international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary research training, as well as the international and cross-sectoral mobility of researchers at all stages of their career. And it is supposed to spread the MSCA's best practices by promoting high standards and excellent working conditions. COFUND promotes sustainable training and international and the mobility, as I mentioned. Next slide, please. Only institutions in EU member states or associated countries are eligible for this mono-beneficiary action. The EU contribution is limited to 10 million euro per beneficiary per call, so also per call per year. The maximum duration of the action is 60 months, so 5 years from the starting date set out in the grant agreement. And it also includes the time that is needed to select and recruit the researchers. The minimum duration of each fellowship on the basis of full-time employment must be 3 months. And in each COFUND action, a minimum of 3 researchers must be recruited. COFUND proposals foreseeing research training for fewer than 3 researchers will be deemed ineligible. And this year's COFUND call has been open since 10th October, with a deadline on the 8th of February next year. In July, the results of the evaluation will be communicated to the applicants, and the grant agreement signature can happen as of October 24. This is yet to be confirmed, but if everything is running as planned, it will be at that time. And the first possible starting date will be in December next year. Next slide, please. COFUND takes the form of doctoral programs or postdoctoral programs. Doctoral programs must lead to the award of a doctoral degree and offer research training activities to allow doctoral candidates to develop and broaden their skills and competencies. And the postdoctoral programs fund individual advanced research training and career development fellowships for postdoctoral researchers. Next slide, please. Participating organizations in COFUND are legal entities that fund or manage doctoral programs or postdoctoral programs for researchers, or that recruit, supervise, host, or train researchers. Participating organizations, like beneficiary and both implementing and associated partners, can be from the academic sector or the non-academic sector. COFUND is a mono-beneficiary action. Only one legal entity established in an EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country can apply to the COFUND scheme. I will explain you now, before I come back to the implementing partner, I will explain you now how COFUND programs work. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you, Isa. This is the right one. Importantly, as I mentioned, COFUND is mono-beneficiary. This means all the money from the EU goes to one institution, the so-called beneficiary of the action. And this beneficiary gets COFUND allowance from the EU and complements it with own matching fund. Because the funding rate is not 100%, it's co-funded programs that are supported. This means that the beneficiary sets up either a doctoral or a postdoctoral program using the EU money plus their own matching funds. And within these co-funded programs, positions for individual researchers are offered. So within each co-fund program, doctoral or postdoctoral researchers are hired according to the MSCA standards. And all positions for individual researchers within the MSCA COFUND are published on Euresearch. This means if you attend, for example, this info event with the purpose to check out funding opportunities for your own individual project, you will find these on the Euresearch webpage. The purpose, however, of this info event is to explain how institutions can participate in order to get co-funding for being able to hire researchers in their co-funded programs then. What I forgot to mention on one of my previous slides is that an institution can apply for either co-fund or either postdoctoral or doctoral programs or both, but not in a mixed program. So you can apply for either a postdoctoral program or a doctoral program, but not mix these types of positions in one grant. Okay, then we can go to the next slide, Isa. Thank you. I mentioned before also that the implementation of a COFUND project, also in this implementation, also implementing partners can be used. So if this is done, we talk about the so-called cascading structure. And implementing partners are legal entities receiving financial support from the beneficiary, so from the partner who gets the money from the EU. And this implementing partner is then implementing the MSCA COFUND doctoral or postdoctoral program. These implementing partners are not signatories of the grant agreement, and therefore they do not get directly the funding from the EU, but they receive it from the beneficiary. And implementing partners that recruit researchers in the context of such a co-funded program, they must be established in an EU member state, or also the overseas countries and territories linked to the member states, or Horizon Europe associated country, or a low and middle income third country that is included in the list of the countries eligible for funding under Horizon Europe. Then there are also associated partners. These are entities which participate in the project, but without the right to charge costs or claim contributions from the EU. In the second part of this info event, my colleague Isabel will go into more detail here with regards to implementing partners, associated partners in such programs, because this is where the Swiss institutions come on the scene. Next slide, please. And surely you're interested in how this co-funding works and how much money is in there. The EU contribution for MSCA co-fund will take the form of unit contributions. This is unlike other, projects like unlike in the collaborative projects, for example, where the financial mechanism is not based on unit contributions. But here, the table on the right side of the slide specifies the unit contributions for the co-funding. This EU contribution can be used to support any cost items of the program. So it can be used for paying salary, for the mobility costs, for research training, networking costs, but also management and indirect costs. And individual cost items may be fully or partially funded through other resources. So basically, on the EU side, they don't really care how you spend this money, but it has to be guaranteed that a minimum that you see here on this slide is paid to the researcher. And the applicants must specify in their proposal the total cost of the proposed program, and also in particular the amounts that will be provided for the benefit of the researchers and for the organizations that will implement the program. This information will then be needed to evaluate the adequateness of employment and working conditions of the researchers. And the monthly gross remunerations, remuneration like salary, social security contribution, taxes, etc., and the mobility costs, for example, for the benefit of the researchers must be not lower than €2,800 for doctoral candidates and €3,980 for postdoctoral researchers. And then there are also the long-term leave allowance, which contributes to the personal costs that are incurred by the employer in case of the researchers' leave for longer than 30 consecutive days. This can be maternity, parental leave, sick or special leave. And then there's also the special needs allowance that contributes to the additional cost for the acquisition of special needs items, if applicable, of course. Next slide, please. A word about the evaluation of co-fund proposals. Proposals will be evaluated by experts on the basis of 3 award criteria. It's excellence, impact, and quality, and efficiency of the implementation. Evaluation scores will be awarded for each of these criteria and not for the different aspects listed in the work program, but just for the single criterion. And each criterion will be scored out of 5. The scores will be awarded with a resolution of 1 decimal place and will then be subject to a weighting factor, which is 50% for excellence, 30% for impact, and 20% for implementation. And all proposals that are scoring equal or above 70% will be considered for funding within the limits of the available call budget. Okay, we can go to the next slide. If you want to go deeper into the co-fund action, you will find more information in the MSCA part of the work program. Also on the 23 co-fund call page, in the MSCA co-fund standard application form, the guide for applicants, and once it will be published also in the co-fund handbook that is published by the MSCA NET project that you are coordinating at Euresearch. And finally, on my last slide, I included here the success story of Marie Jones that my colleague Isabel wrote last year. Just follow the QR code to access it if you're interested. And with this, I stop here and give the word to Isabel. And thanks for moving the slides, Isabel.
Thank you, Sibylla, for being so flexible for this after this technical hiccup. I hope we can go on smoothly. So the main focus of today's presentation was to look how Swiss institutions can still participate in a COFUND program or application. So maybe just a basic for maybe you're familiar with it, but I would like to set the screen for everyone the same. So as you know, depending on the state of a country, the institutions are located in a member state or in a country associated to Horizon Europe or in a country that is not associated to Horizon Europe, a so-called non-associated third country. And because Switzerland is not a member state of the EU, Switzerland has to negotiate its association and is currently considered as a non-associated third country. And the implication or the consequences for the COFUND is that Swiss institutions cannot apply as beneficiary. They can only participate as associated partners. They are thus not eligible to receive European funding. However, the Swiss State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation, we always abbreviate to SERI, they provide funding, national funding, if a proposal is successful. So they provide the funding, of course, to the Swiss institution. And these costs to the Swiss institution is not counted towards the European budget, but on top of the European budget. So we also want to encourage you that you check their FAQ on the official website, horizoneurope.ch. If you want to have any update about the situation of Switzerland to Horizon Europe, you will find them, of course, on their website, but also on our website. So again, you have heard already the basics from Sibylla, how Swiss institutions can participate. So they are the member states and country associated to Horizon Europe. And they can be beneficiary, implementing partner, or associated partner. So as you have seen in a COFUND, there is no coordinator, there's just one beneficiary. And other institutions can be implementing partner if they are from a member state or country associated, or they can choose just to be simply an associated partner and provide training. Now, the situation of Switzerland is non-associated third country, and the only option to participate is as an associated partner. And you find here an overview what this actually means. So this is basically repetition of what you have heard before, but this is the official statement. So the beneficiary is the only one that signs the grant agreement and receives directly the funding. Implementing partners, they have a partnership agreement with the beneficiary and they receive indirectly the European money. And associate partners provide training, they can participate. However, they cannot employ researchers under the action. So they can't receive European money, they can't recruit researchers with European money. So this is the overview. Swiss institutions here in blue, they can't recruit Marie Curie fellows. They can provide, however, training and hosting. They can't claim European funding. So what does it mean for Swiss institution? Always as associated partners. So this is the main message. So you can host secondments or provide training. This is the usual one in a usual co-fund. You can also be an associated partner in a so-called cascading co-fund. In that case, you can also recruit PhD candidates or postdoc candidates and receive funding from the Swiss government. So you see, it's like almost like a hidden implementing partner. You're an associated partner in a cascading co-fund. You cannot be an implementing partner because Switzerland is not a member state. You don't receive European money, but you receive national money to recruit researchers. So this is the figure that Sibylla has shown you about the cascading structure. You see here the associate partner is a bit off. So it's not receiving European money. But in the case that we want to show is, so you get the beneficiary receives the co-fund allowance from the commission. They give the money to the implementing partners, and all of them anyway need to have matching funds because the co-fund is not funding entirely everything of a program. They just contribute financially. So beneficiaries, implementing partners, they all need their own matching funds. Now, in the case of the associate partner Switzerland, SERI would provide the same funding that that Europe would provide. This means they also need their own matching fund. And very important, these researchers, PhD or postdocs, can't call themselves MSCA fellows because MSCA fellows are official fellows funded by Europe. They are only SERI-funded co-fund grantees. This is the official name for it. So just to repeat, associate partners may not employ the research under the actions. That's why you receive funding when you participate through the Swiss government, but these fellows are basically additional fellows funded nationally. So, and the logic of it is, okay, they can't be official fellows, but the logic is COFUND wants to spread the best practice of MSCA. So there can be, of course, an added value to have a Swiss institution. So let's say there is a cascading co-fund across Europe with a beneficiary, for example, in Germany, with an implementing partner in France, in Belgium, and in Portugal. And there is Switzerland that is an associated partner, but has nationally funded PhD or postdocs. So with that, they form an international network spreading the best practices of MSCA. And I think this is very important to keep in mind for the narrative in your proposal, why you have additional PhD candidates or postdocs. So this is just to show you receive the same amount that you would have received as a beneficiary. So this is the same amount per PhD candidate per month, per postdoc per month. And they should have the same rules and conditions in the recruitment. So very briefly, I want to just go really into the detail of the proposal because this is then the actual phase where you have to write this and also maybe explain it to the beneficiary in Europe. So basically in part A, in budget, the researchers employed in the Swiss institutions is not part of this budget table because they are not counting towards the European budget. So it's very important in part B1 that is evaluated. Keep in mind the researchers employed in Swiss institutions are not official MSCA fellows. Keep repeating that they are financed by national funding. And keep in mind that it's about implementing the best practices of MSCA in a third country. So also show the added value. So it's not just that you profit being in a co-fund, but also that you host, for example, Marie Curie Fellows for a secondment, that there's a real added value also for the entire co-fund that the Swiss institution participates. And I also think it's very important to avoid any confusion because this is not a very regular application. Try to introduce very early on that you're clear. These researchers employed in Switzerland are not official fellows, but complementing the program. Now you see here also, basically, you should take the space also to explain that also Swiss institutions, how they provide the funding. And also in impact, emphasize the international impact of this co-fund if you have a Swiss institution, the international network for the career perspective. I mean, at the end, this co-fund should help and boost the career development of the fellows. So also write explicitly that this is helpful for them to have a Swiss institution in the co-fund. And then in the implementation, there is a specific part where the role of the associated partner should be described. So here again, I think it's very important that the Swiss institution is described, why they should participate and how they contribute. And in B2, there is this partner organization table. Again, keep in mind, we are an associated partner. We are not hosting researchers. This is maybe counterintuitive, but we are not hosting Marie Curie Fellows. So that's why please write there N for no. And here also, when you describe the institution under the associated partner, even if maybe it feels like being an implementing partner, we are clearly, from the perspective of Europe, we are an associated partner. And the letter of commitment is still mandatory, and we also have templates for Swiss institutions. If you would like to receive one, please check on our website. We will upload it there. And also to our services, we have a fact sheets, how Swiss participate. Maybe this is helpful for the beneficiary in Europe. We also provide proposal review, of course, very focused on how the Swiss is described. We also have this template for the letter of commitment. And as Sibylle already introduced, the core deadline is on the 8th of February. And maybe one additional information is that they have planned that the next call, so the COFUND 2024, will already be open on the 3rd of April. So they want to shift the call rhythm. So the next call would open in April and close in October. So you see that would be a very short time between the two calls. Just for you, maybe it takes, we are still very early. The call just opened 2 weeks ago. But also for you to know, if you can't make it to the deadline in February, the next call would open again in April next year. So that's at least what is expected. And with that, I would like to finish our maybe a bit complicated introduction, how the cascading co-fund and how Swiss can participate. And I'm so glad that we can have a testimonial. Unfortunately, there is currently no testimonial from a Swiss partner in a cascading co-fund, but I wanted to show one example of a cascading co-fund that has just started. And this is the success story of Atsiri Moreno-Romo, who is the manager of the international relations at the Central Bohemian Innovation Center. Thank you so much for being here. And I will stop sharing my slides and give the screen to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to say that I really have to live up to that picture and do a little more of makeup when I come to it. So let me start also by sharing my screen here. So you have it here. And thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having me here. I would like to introduce myself. My name is Atsiri Moreno. I'm located in the Czech Republic, in Prague. If probably you think that my name, Atsiri Moreno, doesn't sound so Czech. That is because I'm from the west part of the country that is called Mexico. But I've been living here in the Czech Republic already for 8 years, and I have been the international relations manager for the Central Bohemian Innovation Center since 2015. And what I'm here is to share with you our journey throughout this co-found for the postdoctoral program, and hopefully what I have to share with you, apologize. What I have to share with you, it would inspire you to take on this sometimes painful but very rewarding journey. So let's get started. I want to just to give you some few words about our organization, who is the beneficiary, like already said by Isabel, the single beneficiary of the co-fund, and that's from our organization that the funding goes to the research organizations. So our Innovation Center is a non-profit regional innovation agency that was founded in 2015. And we develop and implement the regional innovation strategy for smart specialization. Probably for some, this sounds familiar. And basically, our mandate is to really connect entrepreneurs, scientists, and investors into the within the ecosystem, so we can turn those research results and tackle some of our challenges. Now, going to our merit, that's how we call it, the merit program. Why we decided to apply for a COFUND? Well, first, in the Czech Republic, the number of applications for this COFUND call was not that many. I would say there was only one from the south region of Moravia, and other regions didn't apply. But the real motivation came on 2019 when we did a mapping. That means that we went to visit almost all of our research organizations that we have in the region. We have around 28. And we asked them about their needs, the challenges, and we find out that one of the main challenges was the need of talent. And it was brought of attention that this was one way that we could do it. So we started writing or working on the first proposal for the 2020 application, and I will give you a little more of the information there. But you can see here now that our website is up and running. Now we have closed the first call, and we are in the process of the evaluation and selection process. In our program, we will have, it's a 5 years program, fellowship program, and we are offering 30 fellowships for 2.5 years, each one of those, divided in 2 calls. And we have a consortium of 15 research organizations and more than 30 associated partners. And I will tell you how we manage that. So you see here, the first time that we applied was in 2019, where we got a really reality check when we received the results and what was the weaknesses of our proposal. So that got us thinking how we could improve. And then if you see here, then we try again in the 2020, and that's when the frustration grew, because we were so close from the cutoff score, so close. So we were. I have to be honest, we were a little bit demotivated, but we thought, no, we have to do it again. We have to try again, because really now the research organization really we built trust with them, and so we decided to go one more time, and luckily we got approved. With a score of 98, and I will tell you that we also received support to get this score. The research areas that we are covering in our program are the research areas that are a priority in our region. That means that we have enough mass criteria on these areas. So biotechnologies and biomedicine, space technologies, with the Astronomical Institute from the Academy of Science, sustainable energy, laser technologies, and digitalization and artificial intelligence as a cross-cutting theme. The consortium, we have 51 partners, 15 implementing partners. That means in COFUND jargon, they're called host organizations, and they are all from our region, from Central Bohemia. And because we are the single beneficiary, the grant agreement we signed with the European Commission is signed with us. That means that we can change the number of the implementing partners as for example, for the second call, we have already interest from another 3 research organizations that they would like to join us for the second call. And for that, there would not be any amendment in the grant agreement, luckily. And then we have also 36 associated partners, or what they are called the secondment organization. That means that these associated partners, the candidates, or once they are selected, the fellows, we call them the fellows. I understand that in your case, it would not be possible, but you would have a different name. That's where they will spend between 2 to 9 months to strengthen their research. And we have them from all over the world. And out of these associated partners, 22 are non-academic partners. So we also look for industry partners to be part of the associated partners, and we have them around 11 different countries. What is the main difference between an implementing partner and associated partner? Is that the implementing partner co-fund and recruit the fellows. That means that they are the providers of a work agreement where all the local legislation from the Czech Republic is defined there, together with the salary and everything that it's included in the co-fund allowance. And an associated partner, it doesn't, they don't co-fund, they don't need to finance in any way, but they provide a space for the fellow and a supervisor for between the 2 and 9 months that the fellow can be there. Just to show you a little bit about who are our implementing partners, these are the research organizations. So we have from the National Institute of Mental Health, we have the HILACE or the Extreme Light Infrastructure and others. About associated partners like companies, so we have Valeo, Eaton, Deloitte, and others, also local companies. Associated partners, like I said before, they can be either non or academic partners. So these universities from other countries that we reach out and invite them to become part of our consortium agree. So we have, for example, the University of Washington, the Luleå Technical University in Sweden, Berlin Technical University, and others. Also, we reach out to some of the high schools that we have worked with before, and they were interested to be part of the consortium. That means that the fellows will be able to go through to this high school and do either outreach communication activities or even citizen science practices. That's another story with the understanding of citizen science practices. And a little bit about our evaluation and selection process. So once we open a call, it's open for 3 months, and then before or during the call is open, we do a briefing to the evaluators who will do the evaluation of the project proposals, and the briefing for evaluators includes the criteria, the selection criteria for the research project proposals, and also non-bias training a little bit. So how to avoid the bias while doing your evaluation, either written evaluation or the oral interview. So then we have the next stage. It takes between 3 to 4 months to do the whole evaluation and the selection process. We decided to do a 2-stage selection. That means written and oral interviews. And I will go for my next slide so you can see what are the weights that we have for each one of them. This is very, very MACA standard, I would say. So where the written evaluation has a weight of 70% and then oral interview 30%. So what we do is just that we can come up with our own selection criteria for the excellence, impact, and implementation, and the same we did for the oral interview. We decided what was the criteria, the scientific discussion, the communication skills of the candidate, and the potential for leadership. So we will have at the end, probably the end of the year, the end of December, we will have the best 15 proposals that will be approved by the steering committee that we created, and we will put 8 in reserve. All this is a European Commission mandate. All selected proposals for funding have to go through an ethics screening. And the ethics screening is done by ethics expert. We set up an ethics committee. We look for 4 experts in ethics in different areas, like the knowledge areas that we have. So at the end, for those proposals that will get funding, this will be evaluated by them in the sense that they will see if there are any ethical issue raised in their proposals, how they're going to be monitored, and recommendations. So please, Isabel, tell me how I go in. Time me. So our main challenges and teams a recommendation for you. So the main challenges, of course, was how to write a competitive proposal. You saw our experience. And I think the third time, what we decided to do is look for an expert. So in one of the NC info days of our local NCP, there was a consultant giving also some presentation. So we decided to reach out to her to help us with the polishing of the proposal, and she gave us really insightful and great recommendations and where we could find those tweaks and make it a stronger proposal. Also, our lack of experience and lack of guidance was fulfilled by the NCP, was key for us. What Isabel said about providing you with feedback on your proposal, please do. I mean, that was a wonderful guide that we had from the beginning, and also the MACA handbook. It's also essential to follow. So how we manage a large consortium? Well, sometimes quite difficult, but we kind of now we feel we have a better flow of communication with them. So we decided to, of course, to separate the communication with the associated partners and the implementing partners. We decided to create, for example, one single email and put there all the interested emails. So we sent only one email, but we knew that it was reaching the people that we wanted, in communicating all the news and all the updates that we were needed to communicate. But to convince them to join our consortium, we started by visiting them again, the research organization, to tell them what we wanted to do, and if they wanted to participate and how they could participate. Either which research group could open if they have an opening to offer a fellow, and the co-funding. So that's how we started to narrow down the list. And then we did a workshop for the program managers of each of the research organizations. So the agreement at the end was to have between 2 to maximum 3 recruits per research organization, and the co-funding of 2% of the total cost of and I will show you how it was this breakdown. This is the financing. So our third proposal had almost a 6 million budget, and this is how it was divided. So the EU, almost 60% of the budget, and then we lobby quite hardly with our central authority to give us between 20 to 22% of the budget. And of course, we brought the interest of the research organization, how this would look into our region, because it would be the first time of this kind of project to be implemented in our region. So of course, that's what they wanted to hear. And so it was gone to the General Assembly in the regional authority, and they approved this is a budget for 5 years. And the implementing partners, like I mentioned, so the 15 research organization, each one of them co-fund for 2% of the cost. And here, I will not go into detail, but you can see how it was a breakdown like that. So the co-fund allowance, how is covered completely by the European Commission, and how is we give more on top of that for the fellows. Also, to take into consideration that this amount have to cover the overhead cost of the research organization for hiring a fellow. Tips and recommendations: consult your proposal with your NCP and grant experts. Take feedback from the evaluation summary report. Don't get discouraged. Do it again and apply again. Check if you implement everything in the proposal. A big one that I think that was what get us also to the finish line was to incorporate the European Research and Innovation principles. That means the gender dimension was a big one. Difficult to understand, difficult to approach, but get a gender dimension in research expert to guide you. How can you include this in the project proposals of the fellows? It's possible. And open science practices also, it's difficult for the fellows to understand this, but again, in our guide for applicants, we try to explain what are those practices about. and the interdisciplinarity, intersectorality as well, the crossing with the research organization and industry, and of course the networking. And oh gosh, I don't know. There you go. Expert database. So to get all the evaluators, we open a call in our website to look for those evaluators in different research areas that we have open, and we also ask for access to the REA database that they gave us access to. So we also look for more specific expert with experience. Dissemination of the call, what was our best sources? Euraccess, believe it or not. Euraccess was our best, one of the best sources. Simple Google search, as we saw in our performance report on our website. And also, if I can say this, but ResearchGate was also a good support. And how to get good candidates. In our experience was that the supervisors of the research groups, they knew to which networks to distribute the call. So that really brought us a good candidate. So ask your researchers, your supervisors, to really work on the dissemination of the call. And just to have a really good support platform to receive all the evaluation proposals, the internal communication with the evaluators, etc. And I think that's it from my side. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if I took more time. I'm really sorry. And I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Azir, for your testimonial, for sharing your experience, sharing the frustrations also, but also the joy that I can feel through the screen that you can now have this program. So I stop here now the recording. Stop recording.